All right. Good Wednesday evening, everybody. We will give people just a minute to start hopping on before we start talking too awful much.
I'm going to share this out.
Yes, please share. You guys have any big plans for the weekend? Where are we fishing?
I am finally going to be able to get back out on the water. I haven't had a truck that ran for a little over a month, so I'm excited about this weekend.
Are you going close to home?
Yeah, I'm not going nowhere far. Just here on the high river.
Hey, Kelly. Thanks for joining us. So we've got a few people hopping on, so we'll go ahead and get started. I am Ashley with Last Call Catfishing.
Hi, I'm Julie with Run and Gun Catfishing, and today we have...
Am I supposed to introduce myself? I don't know. You ladies didn't prepare me for this.
We're going to blindside you.
Chris Souders with Slunger Cat Outdoors. And thanks for having me on here.
We are so excited to have you with us tonight, Chris. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. It's going to be a good time. I'm excited about it. Hopefully we get a lot of people on here and we get a lot of questions and comments.
Yes. Hey, Jeremy. Sorry I missed your call earlier. I was getting things ready to hop on here. Kelly King says that you should come fish with us this weekend at the River Rats Catfishing Club. We are at Island Creek where the Veterans event was this weekend.
Okay.
Weston Moore, welcome in.
So which part of the Ohio River, for people that aren't familiar with you, which part of the river are you fishing the most?
Mainly the the midsection would be like from Portsmouth, Ohio, Galplis, Ravenswood, West Virginia, Belfry, Ohio, that area. And then the lower section of the Kanawha River.
We love the Kanawha River. We love fishing down there. We've done pretty decent down there.
Yeah, it's a wonderful fishery. It's West Virginia does a great job, and I really wish that other states would kind of coincide with what West Virginia does for their fishery. They could, I think they could learn a lot from them.
Well, I'd like to know more. I mean, what all does West Virginia do that you think should be modeled elsewhere?
A no BS stance. It is what it is. There's no gray area. If you're doing something illegal, you're getting busted. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. If it is it is no commercial fishing. They had, and something I really like is they had an issue with limb lines a few years ago, and a few of us anglers kind of went to them and said, "Hey, this is what's going on." We all started taking a stance, and it was instantaneously that they had it taken care of. They caught some guys out, seen that it was a big issue, and seen what was happening. They were licensed anglers in commercial boats, and as soon as the DNR seen it, it got switched. It was forced through, and all the gray areas were tied up instant.
That's awesome.
And just the length limits on what they have as far as blue cats, flatheads, things like that.
Good. Well, that's nice to have for sure.
Yeah, but the big thing is they don't mess around with it. If like I said before, if they see something going on, they get it fixed. They don't wait around. They don't beat around the bush. There's no, oh, well, we'll have to wait until next year kind of talk, to get it in. They get it taken care of.
That's great.
Do you see West Virginia DNR on the water a lot?
Oh, absolutely. So, I had a game warden tell me one time, he said, if you see me, it's too late. And he's 100% right. If you see him, he already knows what you're doing, and he already knows whether you're going to get a ticket or he's going to fine you. Before he even checks you, he knows whether you're going to lie to him or not, really. So I was real good friends with an ex-game warden that's now a different part of the division, and he told me that one time, and it's always stuck with me. If you see them, they've been watching you for a while. It's already too late.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But they are out quite a bit. I don't necessarily see the Coast Guard up here, but we do see the game warden at the ramps.
Good. It's good that they have a presence.
Yeah. And he's a big dude too. I wouldn't want to mess with him.
That's funny.
Have you seen much of like the commercial fishing and all of that down and around Portsmouth? We don't get down there as much as we used to anymore. What's it like down that way?
So, 5 years ago, 6, 7 years ago, it was extremely bad. I mean, it has slowed down a lot right now. And the reason I say that is because obviously they're not going to go somewhere where the fish are not. Just like we're not going to go somewhere where we have a chance of catching very few fish when we can go somewhere where we've got a chance of catching 20 or 30 fish, right? So that they're the same way. The commercial fishermen, as much as people, and this is my opinion, I don't think, I think that commercial fishermen are a lot smarter and evolved a lot more than what we give them credit for, in the sense that they've learned technology just as well as we have. You see them out there all the time in areas that you scan and hold big fish, and now you go there and you can't catch a big fish. You start seeing those commercial guys in the same area scanning and doing the same things that we're doing. The information that we're sharing, unfortunately, is helping them as well.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But the commercial fishing, and on the lower Kentucky sections of the Ohio River, it's still running rampant. They're
Yeah.
not giving it a chance.
Yeah, I can attest to that.
Yeah.
I know we see them quite frequently around Manchester, from spring and summer last year down there, even fall. We saw them around the island setting their lines and stuff. But hopefully this year, since we've started to make some connections with ODNR, and they are telling me if we call them, they'll come check things out. So all we can do is keep calling them, keep telling them, and hopefully they start listening.
Something I have seen here recently, and I try to pay attention to a lot of the social media stuff that they are doing on the commercial side, just to see if I can catch anything that might be need to be turned in or whatever. But I have seen them catch another gear in the social media side, just like a lot of us, that are doing YouTube videos, shorts, posting on Facebook and Instagram for second incomes. They are doing it as well, and are sharing just as much or more content than anybody else that I know. So for everybody watching, whether you agree with the person that is posting something on social media, or maybe they're not your best friend, or you're not in the same group as they are. If they're sharing something for conservation and for the bigger purpose of our fishery, I highly, highly, highly urge you to take that content, whatever they're sharing to protect our fishery, and push it and share it just as much as they are.
Because there are some that do follow the law.
Yes. And the more we can put out a presence as far as, hey, awareness. I mean, that's all we can really stand on, is making it as aware as we possibly can, to try to influence folks that are going to pay lakes to start doing river and lake style fishing, and as well as just making them aware of where these fish actually come from, and the devastation that they're putting on the fisheries.
Yep.
Yeah, and we always try to encourage people to be respectful too. When you're seeing stuff, and you don't always have to agree with what people are posting, or if they're sharing stuff about pay lakes and you're commenting on it, please be respectful. I mean, there's been some videos of like some older gentlemen and stuff at pay lakes catching a big fish, and we all tend to disagree with the pay lake situation, but we try to encourage them to not come on and bash the people that are fishing the pay lakes. Like, they're just there because they're getting a chance to win money and to catch a big fish. So at the end of the day, we have to kind of go after the people that are running the pay lakes, supporting the pay lakes.
Yeah, that's I'd agree with that. And Jeremy Chase said it And I don't agree with everything Jeremy says, and I hope he's watching because he needs to hear that.
Yes,
But
he's on here. He's got a comment for us.
oh, I'm sure he does. Um,
Enough.
but he said something that was that was smart, and this was several years ago. He said instead of bashing them and try to teach them and enlighten them and maybe even invite them uh, out on the water. And a lot of people that know me know that I bring faith into a lot of things that I do, and God even tells us to love on the ones that we actually think we hate the most. They're the ones that we're supposed to love on the most. So
Yep.
so think of it in a godly way, if nothing else, and try to be nice and kind, and hopefully show them that we're positive country folks, and that
Mhm.
we want to teach them how to, even if it's to make money in the industry, if that's what their goal is. There's money to be made doing it the right way, fishing and sharing information the right way.
Yeah, Jeremy says Watts Bar, Fort Loudon, and surrounding areas have been pounded for bait. Sad what this place has become in about 5 years. I know sometimes it's tough to get bait, but Catfish Day videos of bait dealers raping the area are beyond valid. Both go hand in hand. Bait dealing is as bad as raping catfish. Most bait dealers sell to pay lakes. It's bad.
Yeah, it is. I agree with him. Um, like I said earlier, West Virginia, they do a great job, and this is another thing that they're watching is our bait source. They understand that just as well as the catfishing part of it. Not just for catfish, but for everything: your hybrids, your stripers, your bass, everything involved has to have that bait source to thrive.
Yeah. Kevin Walters is watching us. He's at work tonight. We thank you for hopping on here, Kevin. He says he has personally converted 3 Pay Lake guys in the last 2 years just by inviting them to be on his boat. We appreciate
Kudos,
Mr.
Kevin.
Walters very, very much.
Mhm.
Yeah. That stinks he's got to work tonight. I hate that for him.
Yeah, he does long days on Monday. He does like 20-hour shifts, I think, on Mondays and Wednesdays, and then he's got the rest of the week off to go fishing. So he likes that.
Well, now that's not
Okay.
too bad.
That's a good deal.
Yeah, I think I could handle 20-hour days to work fish the rest of the week.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just knock it out.
Yeah. If anybody has any questions for Chris on here, feel free to pop them in the comments. I'm sure he'll be happy to answer them. You do a little bit of tournament fishing, right?
He said bye.
I think we just lost our. We'll give him a second. We might have to resend the link. I don't know if he'll be able to pop back on his own.
Oops. There he is.
There he comes.
Yeah. I got salsa.
There he is.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
We gotta like this channel.
I was trying to figure out how to pull the chat up and I couldn't. And
Yeah, I wish that it would work to where it could stream on or guest channels. I guess I don't know how that works, but it would be helpful, I think, to get more reach so that your followers could see as well. He got.
So, do you do any tournament fishing these days, Chris?
Not as much as what I used to. There's a couple tournaments that I like to do throughout the year. Like this year, we're going to be fishing one of the Mega Bucks tournaments. I'm excited about that down in Vicksburg this year. Other than that, I kind of focus on the benefit tournaments, like the cancer research tournaments, or if somebody has a little get together or benefit for a veteran or something like that, I try to make those events more so than fishing tournaments. It just, fishing tournaments is fun to an extent, but when you do content, guide trips, and everything else kind of all the time, whenever you go someplace like Vicksburg, you just really want to, hang loose and fish. And if you're fishing for $100,000, there's no hanging loose and just fishing. You got a lot of stuff on your mind. So I try not to fish as many tournaments as I can, and just go out and have fun and enjoy fishing when I can.
Absolutely. Have you been to Vicksburg before that tournament?
Yeah, I've been not the tournament, but I went down last fall to get an idea. I kind of had an idea that I was going to be fishing it this year, so we took a trip down last fall just to kind of get used to the area, and I'm excited about it. It's a phenomenal
It is
fishery.
amazing. The tournament is so well done, I thought. I went
Really?
and I just went to live stream it to watch Charlie and see the weigh-ins and stuff. And I had such a fun time. It was worth the trip just as a, I don't know, guest, a viewer. Like, I loved it. And I know where a really good steak is, but I'm not going to tell you all about
No, no, I don't mind a good steak. I like
it. It
a
was
good
so
steak.
good. We got it the both nights. We went back again. So.
Now we couldn't find a good place to eat down there, so I will definitely take that up for.
Yes,
up for
you
that.
just.
Oh,
I'm
really?
going to stick around and
That
I'll
place
let you
was
know.
really good.
It was.
But Vicksburg, they do a really good job of making you feel like you're a movie star when you pull in that Coliseum down there with the lights flashing and the air hits you and all the kids up front asking for anything and everything off your boat. It's a pretty good time.
I had to get back. I had to get back from the front. The first day I was in the front and I was trampled by children. So that's when I went back to Dry Creek Marine and I met Chris for the first time. I was like, "Do you care if I stream on your boat?" He's like, "No, go ahead." And now we're buddies. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
That's probably one of the very few tournaments that I get excited about even to watch, because they do such a good job of streaming it. You really, you get a good idea of what's going on, and everything's just keeps rolling really nice and crisp and clean.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, there's some comments on here we'll pop on so people know we're seeing them. Willie Matthew says, I catch my bait in the same water I fish for big fish. Got to learn that skill before you can find the big ones.
Yeah, I would agree. You definitely, bait is one of the most important keys, or is the most important key in, catching fish in general.
Miss Cindy White, she's down in Alabama. She says, we bought some of his bumping rigs at CatCon. Thoughts on using a swivel versus a chain link swivel? Chris's rigs are awesome, by the way.
Well, thank you, Cindy. I greatly appreciate that. And she actually caught an absolute giant on one of the bumping rigs that she bought from us. And she sent me the picture and I'm like, I really want to share this because it's a giant fish. And I was so happy for her. And she's like, no, 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 you can't share it. You got to wait until after the Cabela's tournament. So she made me wait on it. But no, I sell and use personally what is called a high speed. It's like a double crane swivel, more like a high speed swivel versus a chain or ball swivel. I prefer those over those chain or ball swivels just for the quality. Um, it seems like the chain or ball swivels will start getting rough and they don't spin as freely for long periods of time. And whenever you're like in the Mississippi River, a lot of times it's gritty. You got a lot of grit in the water, and it really seems to clog those little chain ball swivels up quite a bit. So.
Kevin Walters, he says he wishes he had $1 for every hour of your YouTube videos he's watched. You come with a wealth of knowledge.
Of people can relate to that.
I know we can.
Well, thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that. And I appreciate everybody that's watching that has over the years that have stuck with me and supported the channel and supported everything that we stand by. I mean, everything on this wall, everything in this shop is really credit to the people that have supported and pushed my family and everybody that just keeps supporting and pushing us to do more and to do better. So, I couldn't do it without everybody that's probably watching this podcast tonight. That's for sure.
Where is your favorite place to fish?
Oh man, that's a tough one, but I really love to bump. And I think it's because we don't have waters to bump all year long. We only get about a month and a half of good bumping water. And I wouldn't even say that's good bumping water, but so I would say the Mississippi River far hands down. Cause you just never know when you pick that rod up and you're setting that weight down, you just never know whether it's going to be a 5-pound fish or a 105-pound fish. and it's just the thrill
And
of,
all of them are fun when you're bumping. It doesn't even matter.
yeah,
Just because you're holding it, you feel that takedown. I
yep, you
think.
feel that thump, and
Yep.
it's just it, your heart just races. The whole, I mean, I don't know how to describe it. As a as a bow hunter, it's like a monster buck walking within 20 yards of you, and you're pulled back on him, getting ready to sling an arrow every time you pick up and set down.
Are you familiar with David Arnold? Have you
Uh,
watched any of
no,
our
I'm not.
shows with him? So he's from Indiana, and he's really big with information. He's got some really good YouTube videos, and his YouTube channel is Dave All Over, if I say that correctly. But he's got some really good videos. But his question for you is, what fishery would you say has seen the sharpest decline in quality, and what would you contribute it to?
So, um, I may get some criticism for this, uh, but I'm a straight shooter, and I feel like if no matter what, you gotta play the cards you're dealt. So I'm what the highest quality would probably be the Ohio River. That's where I've seen the sharpest decline, me personally, and I think that's because that's the majority of the places that I fish, right? Um, and I think that everybody would probably say that in the sense of, well, I fish here and I've seen the most decline in quality here, um, versus other places. What I would contribute that to is a few things. Commercial fishing being the top one, but also fish care on our own. As a tournament angler, when I first started tournament fishing, I didn't know how to keep fish alive. What I what I consider alive today. Um, what I considered alive then, the quality. I can't tell you how many fish probably swam off and had a good chance of dying. I have no idea how to answer that. Um, but I contribute tournaments and anglers lack of fish care and to a percentage of that. And I think we have to suck it up and say, hey, we need to teach people how to keep fish alive better. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I totally
So
agree with that. Yes.
So, do you have any tips then to kind of piggyback off of that? What are some tips that you would give a tournament angler? Because there's a lot more people joining tournaments, that maybe
yeah.
are more novice and don't have as much research on how to.
Water. So there's a few things you can do. And if and I say this because they're inexpensive things that you can do. Water volume is a big thing. So in the Mississippi River, those fish are in current a lot. And let me back up a little bit. So for anybody that's watching that doesn't understand or realize how a fish absorbs oxygen, they either have to be the best way for them to absorb oxygen is either to be swimming or laying in current. So as they open and move their gills, water flows over their gills, and they absorb the oxygen through that. So they either have to be swimming or in current of some sort, some way to really be uh, gaining the oxygen back that they need after they fight or after they're in the fight of their life. So water flow, if you can really push water in and push water out, turn that water over a lot, that's going to get rid of a lot of the bad ammonia, the slime, the stuff that's coming off the fish, the stuff that they're regurgitating. That's putting toxins and poisons back into the water. Get that stuff out, drain it, flow it. In my boat, whenever I have a a fish that I'm in a tournament, I have every pump on, flooding the tank, letting it overflow, pumping it out as much as I can. I got the plugs pulled until, I kind of see that, everything is out of that water. And then once I see everything, all the nastiness get back in there, I do it again and just really roll that water over. The second would be oxygen. Oxygen, oxygen, oxygen. People are afraid of oxygen. But here is something that we can learn from the commercial guys. If they can stick 800 pounds of fish into a 4x4 square and keep them alive for a day going down the highway in the middle of summer, we can keep 100 pounds of fish alive in a 100-gallon tank. We just have to do not be afraid to use oxygen. Pump it and roll that water over. And there's other things on the market too. Extreme Bait Tanks makes oxygen boxes that you can put in your live wells, and it's going to help filter it, and it's going to help put more oxygen into the water as well. And you're not going to be able to take and replenish all the oxygen in that water with that oxygen box, but you're going to be able to stabilize and keep that oxygen level to where it's at, with it's just like a Venturi style system. So that's kind of my tips on it. And hopefully, I really hope it helps somebody, because
and there's a lot of videos on the oxygen on YouTube, like from you guys that do the YouTube videos. I know there's several videos on how to set up your oxygen. And if you have questions, these guys that fish all the time that have redone their boats are more than happy to go over it with you. If you have questions, you just have to reach out. If you have,
let me
use
grab
that as
something.
an excuse that you don't know how.
Let me grab something real quick. I'm gonna grab
again.
I'm gonna grab my system here. It's not gonna be loud. I'm sorry.
We're getting a demo.
Yeah. This is important. This is simple. So this system that I got now, it's portable. I keep it portable just because a lot of times I'll get to a tournament, I'll weigh my fish, and then I'll hear somebody say, man, so-and-so's got a big fish struggling. I go straight to my boat, I pull my tank, and I take it to theirs and I dump it in. So that's another good reason to keep one that is portable. But that is the name of the stone. I'll hold it there for anybody that wants to screenshot it and take a picture. But that's just a porcelain stone, or ceramic porcelain. Yeah. And then this is just a medical oxygen hose. You can get a little bit fancier with it, but this is super easy. Here's the regulator. And I've had this one for a while. But so this has got, let me find it here. Where are we at? But it's got little notches with numbers. This was straight from the biologist himself. And he said, so I would always do like an eighth or, a quarter, half, something like that. And he said, if you have a big fish that you just pull up and he fought hard, that you can absolutely put it up on 2, 3, 4, whatever you want. And I said, well, isn't that going to hurt them? Isn't that going to, I always hear it's going to burn their gills. He said, short term, it will absolutely not hurt them. Long term, like weeks, he said, then that would, then you would have to regulate it. He said, but your oxygen is only going to be able to, or your water is only going to be able to hold a certain amount of oxygen depending on the temperature that it is. So all you can do is flood it with as much oxygen as you can, hope that the water absorbs as much as it can, and the fish absorb as much of that oxygen as it possibly can. And then I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's just a cover on it, just to help protect it. But that is just a welding tank. You don't need nothing, no special oxygen. This is just, I have it filled at the welding shop. That system right there will keep a tremendous amount of fish alive and healthy, to where when you pull them out, they will be just as alive as whenever you caught them, if not better.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing and showing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
How much would
And
you say your whole setup would be? Your oxygen setup? Your total?
$300, you know, and then a tank like this will last me usually if I'm fishing a lot of tournaments. You know, back when I was fishing a lot of tournaments, one tank would last me about a half a season. So, you know, a solid 6 tournaments out of one tank, depending on how much oxygen you use. Now, you know, now one tank will normally do me if I'm fishing a big tournament in the heat of the summer. I usually use a lot of it, so I'll use a half a tank probably in one tournament. So
So in
that's
your, since we're
fairly
talking about
inexpensive. Sorry.
oxygen,
Yeah.
no, you're fine. Like weigh-ins and stuff. Let's talk about that for a minute because I know like we're trying really hard. Michael King does a great job with his River Rats tournaments to prevent people from just leaving fish in totes without water and stuff on them. But in your opinion, like what can we do as anglers to get these directors of some of these trails to take that into consideration? Because like you said, the fish need the water over their gills. And when we're putting them in dry totes and just standing around holding a fish with grippers or by their mouth, like that's really, really bad for the fish.
So, you know, and I understand like not everybody has the resources to do certain things, but if you have to, at some point you have to take a stance and you have to say, hey, you know, guys, this is our stance. We care more about our fishery than we do about building ourselves up or making ourselves look better. So here's a clear cut rule. There's no gray area. If I see you come in with a fish on a, you know, on a gripper or a fish that is here's a good example. Like if the gills are moving, they say it's alive, right? Um, I would love to see a tournament director. I know this is hard. This is a hard because it's more of an opinion than it is anything. But if that fish doesn't swim off, then those people get disqualified. And make it to where folks have to you know do the right things instead of giving an opportunity to get away from that, and then just make a stance.
It's definitely important.
Yeah,
Hopefully I answered
Jeremy commented
that.
on here. Yeah. Jeremy says $135 at Welding Supply Store in Monroe, Ohio, $40 for the regulator on Amazon, and $40 for the ceramic diffuser zone. So there you go.
Yeah.
You can find everything you need online fairly cheap.
Yep. Under $300. I think most of us spend more than $300 on a weekend on food.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, especially these days.
Yeah.
So I know one of the questions Jess was wanting me to ask you about was the James River. We haven't made it there. We were going to try to go there after we fished the Ice Bowl at Kerr Lake, but we didn't make it there. So can you tell people about what it's like fishing the tides and like what you suggest doing? Because we've never fished anywhere like that. And I'm sure there's other people here that have never been anywhere like that.
The James River is a phenomenal fishery. And unfortunately, it has been hit commercially as well. But no, if somebody's going to go to the James River, um, their research needs to start weeks in advance and learning how to read a tide chart, because you could be on the lower part of the James and it could be going out to where the upper part of the James may still be in part of an incoming tide. So learning that tide is definitely a huge learning curve, and studying it and looking at each different stage as it goes up the river will help you out a lot in being able to make the next decision of where to go and how to fish, and just sitting down and planning your day out kind of ahead of time. Where most of us, we may go to the river and we know we know the flow is going downriver. So we can change things pretty easily as we go throughout the day. Well, there you have a certain amount of hours, depending on if you start at 7 a.m., that tide, you may only have that downstream tide for 2 hours before it's going to be turning and coming back upriver. So that's the biggest learning curve down there. Other than that, it's blue cats. Blue cats are blue cats, whether it's the James River or whether it's the High River or the Mississippi River. Those jokers will be absolutely anywhere at any given time for any reason. And don't be afraid to move baits. And I know a lot of people out there, they love to anchor. They'll set up on anchor and kind of call what they call slicks. They'll get slicks going where they'll set up on a current seam and just replenish their baits every 20 to 30 minutes and kind of wait for the fish to move, because those fish do move a lot out there. But for me, I can't stand to just sit there, so I'll drag baits or bump or drift or whatever I can, whatever the current is at that specific time.
Do you use different baits based on like where you're fishing? Like, do you use skipjack in some areas that you fish in, and then shad when you're like on the Ohio in the summer, or like what's your go-to bait? I guess people are usually curious about that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean that is probably one of the biggest questions that I ever get, and I hear it a lot. For example, Steve Douglas, loves Steve to death, but everywhere I went that did not have skipjack, somebody would say, "Hey, did you catch him on skipjack?" I said, "You guys don't have skipjack here." He said, "Yeah, but that guy on YouTube got him on skipjack." I said, "Yeah, but you don't have skipjack here." So you have to look at what is in your water. If that is bluegills and suckers, then use bluegills and suckers. If that's gizzard shad and and bluegills, use them. If it's moon eye and skipjack, that's what you use. If it's white bass, and it's legal, use it. If it's plentiful in your area. For example, the James River and the Potomac, a lot of people use eel. I've never used eel. They kind of creep me out, but they use them and they catch a lot of fish out there.
And that means TikTok thinks everybody needs to be using eel too. I remember when we first started going live on TikTok, they're like, "You need to use eel. You need to use eel. It's the best bait there is." I'm like, it's not in the Ohio River, at least not where I'm at. But so it was just kind of funny. So that's why I was kind of laughing when you brought up the eel. So I was gonna say, everybody on they may think skipjack on YouTube and stuff, but TikTok is all about the eel or chicken. Yeah, chicken or eel.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I'm not a big fan of the chicken and Kool-Aid and that kind of stuff. The craziest stuff, I have used chicken, and I use it every once in a great while whenever I go up to Sandusky Bay, or if I'm just wanting to go out and make a video for some reason on the High River. I'll use it, for that sense. But if you're going out on a everyday basis and you want the chance of catching the biggest fish of your life, you have to set yourself up with what they know. An 80-pound fish, he didn't get 80 pounds by just being silly. So if it's not normal to him, he's not going to mess with it.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on like using the big baits catch big fish? Are you one of those kind of people, or do you do a variety of sizes and chunks and all that kind of stuff?
I'm a variety type of person. I mean, I believe that big baits catch big fish in the right situation. For example, we had a 30-degree cold front come through just yesterday. I'm not necessarily going to go out there and throw a whole skipjack. I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna fish, and try to catch every fish that I can, and then continue to figure out, what those bigger fish are wanting. But a lot of times I find in tough situations, downsizing and minimizing, get kind of going back to the basics, set yourself up for a better success rate than, shooting for the fences.
We better pop in some questions. We've got so many. I was trying to keep up with them here. Dave says, I see us make the same mistakes the bass fishing world make. How can we do tournaments different? This is the Chris Souders catfish tournament. How would you do it?
I would set that example. There would be, if you want to fish a tournament, you have to be in your mind, you have to be willing to do what's going to take to keep those fish at their peak. So, I would set minimums as far as what you had to have as a live well. And if it did not meet my requirements, you would not put a boat in the water. That would include oxygen. That would include water flow of certain gallons per hour. And it would also involve certain gallons of hour of being able to dump that water. And then from there, just setting clear rules and not, I've fished a lot of tournaments over the years, and I've seen a lot of gray areas on things. And whether you're friends or not friends with somebody, the easiest way to get a tournament trail shut down is by changing or bending the rules for somebody. And, but the best way to keep your integrity and to keep a positive name that people will continue to know years down the road is by sticking to it. Whether you make somebody mad or not, you may make somebody mad by saying, hey, you done the wrong thing, and today you're disqualified, and I'm sorry. But on the other side of things, you're setting an example for others that come in that says, if I get caught doing this, I'm done. So the chances of them doing it are not going to do it. And I say this, Alex Nagy and Twisted Cat Outdoors, they run a solid trail. They run a phenomenal trail. And he is what I believe people should strive as a tournament to look like.
Absolutely. I agree. I think he does a good job as well.
Me too.
The rules are the rules.
Miss Cindy says, I believe that the least amount of times a fish can be handled during weigh-in is key. It definitely reduces the amount of time I get beat up. We've all been there.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. But I think it goes back to if we're taking good care of them. I couldn't tell you how many times I've went to like MRM and pull out fish out of the live well and just absolutely get beat up because those fish are alive. So there's no doubt in my mind that those fish are going back in the water and thriving. And it really goes back to making sure we're doing our due diligence.
Absolutely.
Yep. Michael King wants to know what would you target if you was fishing the river this weekend?
Michael King, what river? I'm going to assume that he's talking about the High River.
Yeah. Well, his tournament is down by Manchester, but I'm not sure if he's meaning like that area or like where you are.
So we're supposed to have, if his weather is kind of similar to what ours is, we're supposed to have the next 2 days colder in the mornings, but it's supposed to warm up and the sun is supposed to be shining bright for the next couple of days. And my opinion, you get that 11, 12, 1 o'clock hour when that sun's been beaten down on a sand flat and about 5 to 10 foot of water, it's not going to get no better. You're going to, if those fish move up there on that shallow flat to sunbathe, they're going to get warmed up and they're going to put a feed bag on, and you're going to have a, if your tournament ends at 3, you're going to have 2 hours to catch catch some really good fish.
Charlie Temple, would you recommend adding extra oxygen even if you have a live well set up to run high flow in and out all day?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So here's something for everybody to think of. All this stuff right here, if you take this right here, you don't have to have a battery. You don't have to have a power source. You don't have to have a pump. You turn this tank on, and it keeps your fish alive. If nothing else, if you lose every pump and your power source to all of your pumps, you can still shove oxygen to them and keep them alive. So something else too that people may not understand is when the oxygen comes out of this tank, it's colder than like air that comes to a venturi. So I don't know this. Like I haven't sat down and done the studies on if the water's 70 degrees, it's going to cool it this amount of temperature over a certain amount of time. But I believe that the oxygen does help cool the water as well.
Kevin, do you ever run a live sonar to catfish with or just help with bait? What are your thoughts on it?
I love live sonar, but I mainly use it for just catching bait. I have tried, as far as trying to see fish with it. And when it comes to a blue cat, I think you can see them a little bit easier, but I'm not as good as like some of the crappie guys are at finding fish. If a flathead's in a tree, I can't really pick him out. I'm not that good with it. And I do not have the confidence to say, hey, I'm going to go out and, catch fish with one rod and the live sonar. Do I think that there's a time coming to where that's going to be the way to do it? Yes. Do I think that they need to put a handle on it before it gets there? Yeah. I think we should take example from bass and crappie and just go ahead and, put the hex on that before it even gets started.
Do you prefer to target flats or blue cats?
Oh, that's a good question, man. I love some big flatheads. I love big flatheads. But I love to catch fish, period. So, and I can't hardly stand to sit still, and you go flathead fishing. I mean, we catch them dragging, don't get me wrong, in the summertime when the water temperature comes up and the current goes down, we catch a lot of fish, flatheads dragging. But, for me, flathead fishing is throwing a, 8-inch, 10-inch live gizzard shad or a big old sucker or big old live bluegill or something like that out and watching that pole dance, and then all of a sudden watching that pole just go thunk and then just get annihilated. That's flathead fishing to me. And, that only happens, you get that around here usually 2 or 3 months out of the year, May to the first part of June, and then again, towards the latter part of the year, October. Especially the last couple of years in the summertime, we haven't had the current that, any current to speak of. So, flathead fishing to me is a lot of current driven type of fishing. So I guess to answer his question, I went on a wild goose chase on that one, but I would say I love to flathead fish, and they're probably my favorite.
Yeah, we definitely are wanting to catch some big flats this year. It's been a while since we've caught a decent flathead. So
Yeah.
Miss Cindy, in the Mississippi River near New Orleans, regardless of the amount of water and oxygen, the blue cats turn on their sides. Mike Mitchell warned us it would happen. We were constantly checking our live well. Any thoughts on why it's happening in that area?
Cindy, I do not know. I actually talked to Mike a little bit about this, and because me and him was talking about it, and I talked about it with somebody else too, and I can't remember, but they was telling me the same thing. It might have been Jeremy. Um, I can't remember for sure, but I honestly I've not been down there to experience it. So I have zero thought, opinions on that. I don't know if it's maybe where they eat so much grain down there because in the upper sections of the river I see it a lot on grain fed fish. I don't know if maybe that has something to do with it, or if it's got to do with the salt that's in the water down there a little bit. I honestly don't know.
Justin just popped on. He said it's because it's so deep down there and there's so many greeneries and the fish eat so much grain they puke it up. They are stuffed full. That's why they want to roll over.
Gotcha. Well, that makes sense. That is on my bucket list.
There was also
I want to get down there.
somebody else asked, I think we already talked about this, but I'll just pop it on here. Your favorite place to fish outside of your home waters? You said the Mississippi, right?
Yeah,
Mississippi River.
absolutely. Absolutely Mississippi.
Oh, here's another one. That's the biggest problem today is electronics and gear all coming up so fast, but regulations are not. Even the amount of people that are fishing within the last few years is astonishing.
Yeah. And so I agree. I agree with that a little bit to an extent. So, electronics have helped a lot, especially in finding fish and being able to locate different structures and covers. Understanding what cover and structure is, because a lot of people don't understand the difference in the two. Uh, the live scope is a whole different level as far as being able to literally pinpoint a certain size fish and then watch his reaction. Um, it's it's not it is so dangerous to watch those guys that are bass fishing or crappie fishing uh, to to just pitch out to a fish and watch that fish's reaction, how it turns, whether it's up or down. When you go up to a crappie, if depending on the way it's pointed, will depend on whether it's even going to eat or not. And so, just knowing and seeing that is a whole different level than just electronics in general. I'm a fan of electronics as far as being able to locate where they're at, but I'm not a fan of electronics as far as live scope.
Is that because you feel like it gives people an unfair advantage?
No, because I think that I think that so if you look at so Josh Jones, I don't know if anybody knows who that is or not, but he is one of the biggest live scope bass guys there is. I wouldn't say that I agree with everything he says or does, but he really knows how to catch large bass with a live scope. And the amount of 10-pound plus bass that have been caught since this has started is just astonishing. So if you roll that over to catfish, a bass may take 10 to 15 years to peak at 10 to 15 pounds, depending on where he's at, the strain of bass, things like that. A blue cat to reach 50 pounds may be 35 years. So if we as catfishermen learn how to catch 80-pound fish almost every time we go out, like that's all we're doing is hooking and dragging 80-pound fish to the top, then our ratio of killing fish is going to go up, but our ratio of how fast those fish grow is not ever going to change. So that's what scares me with the live scope. It's not the unfair advantage or anything like that. It's just the fact that the fishery is going to take a hit, and we honestly, with what we're fighting with the commercial guys, and then the death rate of mishandling fish and things like that, we can't take another hit to our fishery with something like this.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. It's like hunting with drones or hunting with night vision at midnight.
And don't
That's
get me wrong,
That's
I you know, I do like live scopes. I do. And but it's I just think it's a dangerous thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we get it a lot from like the Pay Lake guys when we talk about like conservation and what it's doing to our rivers and stuff, that they come back with their responses. If we didn't take them out, they would be invasive here like they were in Virginia. What
Well,
is your take on that?
let us worry about that when it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's you know, I don't know. I mean, there's more to that. There's more to that invasive thing in the Potomac and the James than just saying, they eat all the blue crab, and that study has been squashed. And so it's just like Illinois and Kentucky have directly told the commercial fishermen, we are not going to allow you to be stopped. We're we're going to do everything we can do to keep you guys working. We got your back. I believe that something like that is happening in Virginia as well. Can I prove that? No. It's just my personal opinion and thought. But I would love to have the problem to say, we have to start doing, something, start taking more. Or heck, I mean, if we want to commercial fish to feed the homeless, or take out and give to the vets that have gave their life for this country, like I'm game. Like I help I'll jump on board with something like that. But I can't jump on board, for something that's going in a pond just for somebody's back pocket.
That's what we said. Like, why are we not taking the carp? Take the Asian carp and go put them in the lakes and catch them. They get really big. They fight good.
Yeah.
Leave the catfish alone.
Yep. It's really sad.
So before we get off here, how did you come up with Slunger Cat Outdoors? Like, what led you to that?
So when I first started the YouTube channel, it was just called Souders Catfishing, just a generic YouTube thing. And I was in a truck with a good friend of mine. His name was Harley Neal. And I was like, man, I really, we was talking about a YouTube channel. And this was back when I was kind of starting into getting cranking into the tournament stuff. And I said, man, I don't know what I'm going to call it. He said, well, why don't you just call it Slunger? And I said, well, what's that mean? He said, I don't know. He said, you say it all the time. And I didn't ever, unannounced to me, I didn't even realize I said it, and so we in the truck, we come up with Slunger Cat Outdoors. And then whenever I was getting a website built and kind of moving forward, there was a lady that was helping me, and she's like, well, what does it mean? And I said, well, to be honest with you, I don't know. I said, I just heard my grandfather say it whenever I was growing up. And, and he always said, man, that's a slunger, whether he was talking about a deer, or whether he was talking about a fish or just something big, he's just like, that's a slunger. And I picked it up. So, I just knew it as, man, that's a slunger. And so that's kind of how we come up with it. And then she done the research of what it actually means. And it actually means, and it's an appellation noun for a fish of, abnormal size, a very large fish. There's another part to that too, but I won't say that part. But people can go look that up.
That's cool.
That's so cool. I always kind of wondered that too, what Slunger Cat meant.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah.
it's it is something that kind of means something special to me. Just because my grandfather is part of it,
It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought it was like a nickname, maybe something like that. Awesome.
Do your kiddos, do they go fishing with you much?
Corey used to love it. Whenever I was fishing tournaments, she would jump up in the boat and help me wrestle fish out of the boat at the live, at the weigh-ins and stuff. And And now that she has found her passion, she could care less about a fish unless it's fried. And you know, uh, I don't force her to go, but maybe once or twice a year. And you know, I bribe her with chocolates and McDonald's, and we get out there, and she'll eat a bunch of junk food, and then her belly hurts, and I have to bring her home. But
She's ready to go
uh,
home.
but now Caleb, my little boy, he's 4 and he loves to go catching bait. Me and one of my best friends, Red, we'll go catch bait together, and he loves to jump in the boat and go with us and catch bait. Now, mind you, he's watching YouTube on my phone, but he's on the boat, and we got to start somewhere. So
That's right.
That's
Baby
right.
steps.
yeah. But both of them now. Caleb does love to hunt. He likes to go sit in the deer blind with me and watch deer up. This year was like one of the first years that he went and sat in the deer blind with me, and one of the first nights there was a doe walking in, and I got his attention and got him up there where he could see it, I said, "You see it?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "You gonna shoot it?" I said, "You want me to?" He said, "We're gonna eat it." I said, "Well, yeah." He said, "Then shoot it."
That's precious.
Yeah.
That's so cute.
One more comment here. Justin says in Virginia, the same commercial fishermen at Overfish the Blue Crab are the ones that are pushing for them to be invasive. He's over at they're all in bed with each other.
Who means that?
Yeah. Thanks, Dave. Have a good evening. Michael King wants to know if you shot the deer.
Yeah. Actually, Michael, I missed. I'm sorry. I missed it. So we, after I missed it, Caleb asked me, he said, "So what are we going to do?" I said, "Well, we got to go home." He said, "Well, what about the deer?" I said, "We missed it." I mean, just simple as that. So, but we ended up killing some this year, and we got plenty of deer to eat. So that's all that mattered.
And you got a
That's
story
awesome.
to tell.
That's right.
Well, Chris, do you want to give everybody your website, and in case they want to go check it out and see what all you've got on there?
Yeah,
Be sure to share
just
that
go
with
to
everybody.
Slunger Cat Outdoors. You can see it right there. SlungerCatOutdoors.com. You can find us all over the internet. Anything you want as far as fishing apparel. I don't have as much apparel as what I would like, but apparel is just tough. I I just I don't know what to keep and what not to keep in apparel. But as far as your fishing tackle and everything that I sell is things that I use my personal self, things that have helped me win over the years, and things that I have 100% confidence in. But other than that, you can find on any social media platform: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Clapper, Lemon8, and Instagram. So you can check us out on all those as well.
Do you post to all of those?
Yes.
I got all those, but
Yeah. So I was on a really good run, and I was posting at least one reel to every platform every day, and then trying to do several posts on Facebook and Instagram. But I kind of fell off the cliff there for the last month or so, and I'm not posting as much as what I need to. But yeah, I try to do a lot of content. I like doing the content. I love to go fishing and make videos with different people. I mean, if somebody's like, "Hey, I want to meet up and do a video together, collaboration," like hit me up. We'll try to make it work and make something happen. I don't have a huge following, but I help as many people as I can, grow what they're wanting to do. I love to see people succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we really appreciate you.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can get you to Manchester this year for our veterans event. Bring the kiddos and the wife, and everybody come hang out for the day.
When is that? That this year?
It is October the 11th.
October the 11th. Okay.
Yep.
I will hopefully be able to try to make it. Like I said before, anything that I can do with veterans and taking people out like that, I love to try to help out.
Well, if anybody has any more questions, we'll let Chris get back to his evening. Again, we really appreciate you getting on here.
Yeah.
Making the time for us. I know life gets busy, but we really appreciate you. I think everybody's enjoyed listening to you.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Stick around and I'll tell you that I got the restaurant pulled up. So
I want that steak.
I'll tell you it.
Yeah. Hey, thanks everybody. Well, hopefully you enjoyed
thank
the
you
show.
all for joining us. Be sure to catch us next week. We have 2-time state record holder Micah Burkhart with us next week. So be sure to mark that on your calendars and we'll see y'all next week.
See y'all.